All right, hello guys. Today we are talking about the subject of improving your hiking and improving your training. And we're talking about the secret sauce, the magic ingredient that you really do need if you are seriously looking to improve. Now, the inspiration of this episode today was coming from my recent adventures in the ocean. And specifically, a little bit of backstory. I've talked about it in this podcast a few times, but over the last year, 3 times a week, before the sun comes up, I go out bodyboarding with a mate at my local beach. Now, rain, hail, or shine, we paddle out and we get into the ocean, really test ourselves against whatever it may throw at us. Now, we absolutely love doing this, and we've been consistently doing this for about 12 months now. But I'll be honest, after those 12 months, we aren't particularly good at it. Now, not to say we are terrible, and not to say we don't know what we're doing, and not to say we're not having a fantastic time, which we absolutely are. But if you looked at us, you wouldn't be saying, they're looking pretty professional. You wouldn't say, hey, they're looking really good. And you wouldn't say, hey, they've been surfing consistently for 12 months without a stop. And this morning, when I was recording this episode, or this morning recording this episode, while we're waiting for a wave and in between the sets, we were having a chat about this exact subject, because we messed up a few waves and we were joking around and we were like, oof, you know what, we're not very good. And then we were talking about how after all this time, we probably should be expecting to maybe be a little bit better, maybe a bit more impressive, maybe doing a few more tricks, maybe doing a bit more crazy things, and all of that jazz. But after chatting about it for a while, we basically both came to the same conclusion about this, and it did make a lot of sense why we kind of are where we're at. In the sense that we were not surfing with intent to improve. Now, what I mean by that is, we both run our own businesses. We're both super busy. We both have a million things we want to juggle, we need to juggle in our day-to-day lives. And we really both get out into the surf for 2 big reasons. Number 1, just having some fun and just finding that fun in our lives where we can go out, have a great time, get that really good feeling, and just have a really good time. And number 2, peace. Simply getting out in the ocean without a phone, without emails, without anything, being in the elements, seeing the dolphins, seeing the sunrise, all of that jazz. That is really important to us. And then we're not actually going out there trying to improve. We're not going out there trying to get better, but we're going out there just to really experience those 2 things, fun and peace. And because of that, because we're not going out in that mindset, we really are missing one thing in the grand scheme of improvement. And that is having the focused intent to actually improve. Now, there's the old saying, which I'm sure you've heard a million times, is practice makes perfect. But in all honesty, I don't really agree with that. What actually makes perfect, in my opinion, is practice with intent, where you go into each practice session with a purpose on what you're trying to improve on. And as you go along, you evaluate what you're doing, hone in on it, and then you try it again. And bit by bit, you'll improve. And it does take a lot of thought, it does take a lot of determination, and it does take a lot of focus. But it is so important if you are seriously looking to try to improve on something. Now, if we really wanted to improve our bodyboarding, we would probably be doing the same. Instead of just paddling out and seeing what happens and just having a good time, we would want to, decide before we go out in the surf, what are we trying to focus on? Are we trying to get better, on certain parts of the wave? Are we trying to get better with a trick? Are we trying to get better on a certain element of surfing? We would test it out each wave. We would evaluate how it went and test it out again and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. And it would be a constantly evolving process which we would be present with and we would have intent with. But that's not really our aim with it surfing. But the reason why I want to talk about this today is because if you are listening to this podcast, obviously you're interested in trying to improve your hiking in one way or another. And quite often I'll hear the stories from hikers where they'll be like, look, I'm going out hiking, I'm practicing hiking all the time, and yeah, I might be improving certain things, but certain situations, it's still a struggle for me. Whether it's downhills, whether it's rough terrain, whether it's river crossings, whether it's whatever it may be. And in all honesty, when it comes down to this, the key element and the missing element is often the intent. Instead of going out on these hikes and completely just, having a good time and taking it all in, if you're really looking to try to improve something, go in with that intent. Say, on this hike, I am going to try and improve my downhill hiking. On this hike, I'm going to try something new, a different way of walking, maybe a different trick in my mind, maybe whatever it may be. I'm going to see how it goes. At the end, I'm going to evaluate. Did it work? Did it not work? What needs to be tweaked? And then each time, tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak. And that is where the improvement happens over time. And the same thing with your training. If you're trying to improve particular things on the trail, or if you're trying to improve in particular training sessions, you want to go in with intent. You want to say, okay, this session, I'm going to nail this exercise. I'm going to do this. I'm going to train this. I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, I'll try something else. And keep on tweaking that process. If you are trying to improve, if you're trying to get really, really good at something, if you're trying to master something, this is really, really, really important. But saying this, on the other side of things, even though it's really important if you're trying to improve, it definitely isn't necessary. If you're going into your hikes and you're literally going out to enjoy yourself, if you're literally going out to have a good time, if you're literally going out to clear your head or whatever it may be, and you're not super, super, super stressed about really getting better or really improving, then you don't need to worry about this. You can do training without this intent. You can do hiking without this intent, and you will see some results, and you will be able to go out and enjoy yourself. But what I'm trying to stress here is if you're really trying to improve and you're really determined to improve something, the intent needs to be there. So there is a lot to unpack there, and it's a massive, massive subject, which I really only have just scraped the surface with. But what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, if you are looking to improve something, whether it's a section of your hiking, whether it's something with your training, whether it's getting better at a certain type of hiking, a skill, or just exposing yourself to some other thing, if you are really taking it seriously, the intent does need to be there. You need to be focused, you need to be consistent, and you need to constantly evaluate how it's all going and keep on trying new things. It's not strictly necessary in other situations, but in this one, 100% it is. So I hope this subject has been relatively clear today. Obviously, as I said, big subject, scrape the surface, probably a lot more I could say, and probably a lot more you can dive into here, but hopefully it has given you a bit of an idea around what you may need to include if something's just not changing for you. Now, if you did want to explore this a little bit further, if you wanted to break this down a little bit, if you want some ideas around how to actually go in with intent, whether it's to a training session or a hike or whatever it may be, I would absolutely love if you could come and find me in the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. Now, as I always say, inside that group, I'm always happy to expand on these episodes, always happy to share more ideas, always happy to explore different concepts around what we talk about here and really, really get into the nitty and gritty. So if you were interested and you're not a member already, it's the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the show notes below. But thank you very much for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.